My name is Lane. I'm from Colorado and I'm 24 years old. I got into this industry because I always had a passion for snowmobiles, side-by-sides, ATVs, all that stuff. I thought they were fun. And what got me started in it was turbos. And at a young age, I didn't have enough money to buy a kit, so I started building them myself, and that's what got me started working on all this stuff. I started with snowmobiles, turbo kits. I started off building them for myself and then kind of built a reputation and had people start bringing them to me. So I had a shop of my own and did that, just the snowmobile side, and got into some RZR and Ranger stuff. And then after that I built cars for a living, and everything up to 1,000 horsepower. A lot of things from compound turbo, supercharger and twin turbo stuff, high compression, naturally aspirated stuff, nitrous, all of it across the board pretty much. The most satisfying thing for me would be taking machines that are stock and designed that way, and me being myself without a team of engineers, being able to turbocharge and supercharge these things and build that stuff with my hands and write the calibration myself and be able to make all that work like factory and drive like factory, but double the horsepower. For me, that's what's really fun. You take a motor from 100 horsepower and you make 400. Most people, they can't even fathom what's actually happening there with the physics and how you actually get a motor to stay together with 30 pounds of boost and 6 injectors or 12 injectors, however many it may be. I would say what I'm looking forward to the most would be getting machines on the chassis dyno and spending a lot of time developing parts and being able to prove horsepower and torque gains through our work on cylinder head, flow bench, and all of the effort and the technology that we can put into that stuff, and being able to prove that what we do is actually picking up power, and we can build a product that holds up and stays together. That's what I'm super excited about. What I like doing the most is forced induction high performance engines. That's really, whether it's turbo from the factory like the new Can-Am side-by-sides, or whether it's naturally aspirated. What really gets me out of bed in the morning is the ability to gain performance with that stuff and do things that other people don't think about or don't understand. And that's understanding what's actually happening there as far as physics and volumetric efficiency of the motor and the volume of air in comparison to the boost pressure that we're running, and the idea that maybe we can lower boost pressure but increase volume and increase horsepower that way and actually lower the stress on the motor.
If someone comes in and says, I want to make more power than my friend, what gives you the edge to do that?
I would say my experience in the mixed power sports and automotive industry, I spent 4 or 5 years in power sports, worked for a dealership, had a shop of my own, did all the turbo stuff, supercharger stuff, and then I went straight from there and I worked for a couple automotive shops and calibrated for them and spent a lot of time learning how air actually flows through a motor, and spent a ton of time studying that and being able to prove it. What gives me the edge is I have a massive experience in the area of the motor from the piston up, as far as cylinder head flow and camshafts and forced induction. Being able to understand camshafts and how the valves actually open and close and when they do that, and really optimizing how we make the engine work. All the parts are there, but every time we change something on the engine itself to make more horsepower, we need to account for that some way, whether it be exhaust, intake, different fuel, or anything else in the calibration or the tune, all the way up to turbos, superchargers, nitrous. All that stuff has to be accounted for, and you have to understand how all that works. And because I've worked on a huge range of things, compound diesel trucks that make 2,000 horsepower, Dodge Hellcats with twin turbos and a supercharger that make over 1,000 at the wheel. Being able to really understand how an engine works is what makes all that stuff possible and makes all those things stay together. My experience in that is what I would say really helps with what we're doing here.
Perfect. Talking about tuning, so you built the motor, you got all the hardware down, it's all built and assembled. Walk me through the steps of tuning, and what would you say that you do? Maybe you do it that you might feel it's a little bit different than someone else. Steps of tuning. So walk me through tuning a vehicle. And give me the short version.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, what we do here when we tune stuff on the dyno and spend time with it is every vehicle runs differently. Whether they could be identical, same machine, same year, they all run differently. Some, just based on tolerances in the engine, sensors, all that stuff runs differently. In the way that we tune things on our dyno, it's specific to every single vehicle. So when we change the way that the motor runs, we flow more air into and out of the motor. And that changes how much fuel needs to be in the motor, or our air-fuel ratio, and what is commanded and what is actually happening. Because when we change a part, the ECU is not calibrated for that. So we're accounting for that increase in airflow. And the other thing is our spark plug, or our spark that ignites the flame inside the cylinder, that needs to be changed based on how much air and fuel we have in the cylinder. If we have more fuel there, our flame actually travels slower inside the cylinder, so we need to account. If we have more air and more fuel, we have to pull spark timing back because it's a more volatile mixture inside the cylinder. But at the same time, the more fuel and the better fuel we run, if we run premium or race gas, that changes when we need to light that spark plug. So when we make calibration adjustments, we're adjusting the air-fuel ratio to make sure that the engine stays cool and make sure that the burn inside the cylinder is actually a smooth, controlled burn and not an explosion. That way it's easy on our bearings, it keeps our rods together, it keeps our pistons together. And then when we light our spark plug, now that's the basic of it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there's 1,000 other things that go into it, but that's the basics of it.
Absolutely. Now, what kind of value do you think, what's the value proposition of an individual or consumer bringing their vehicle here as opposed to anywhere else?
Well, I would say here, the biggest thing here is our team. We have a lot of guys that have a ton of experience, and aside from their experience, this is what they're passionate about. This is what they love. So this isn't a job for them by any stretch of the imagination. This is what they love to do. It doesn't matter if this was their machine or friends or customers. They're all getting treated the same. And our team, like I said, we have a ton of experience, and we have guys that are super, super passionate about what they do, and we have a lot of knowledgeable guys that have been in the industry for a long time and know the ins and outs of every machine. And I think that's a huge, huge bonus. The other thing I would say is our tools. We, as a company, are very, very prepared for anything as far as regular maintenance to crazy high performance. We're prepared, we have the tools, and we have the people to optimize those tools.
Perfect.
I would say I'm most excited about improving in the understanding of individual engines per machine. So I'm excited about learning exactly what a 1000 Razor motor, what they like, what they don't, and spending more and more time becoming more of an expert with those. I obviously understand the engine, I know how they work, but to really be an expert, you have to spend a lot of time and a lot of late nights up thinking about what could go wrong, what went right, and what we can improve on as far as the engine itself. And that's what I get excited about, is being really, really good at understanding what happens inside those engines, and that's what gets me excited.
On these machines, whenever we do these big builds, is the consumer going to be able to, given our instruction, turn down or up?
Yes.
What it's putting out.
Yes. We have the ability to actually put a switch on the dash or multiple switches to control levels of how much performance they want, whether they want to turn it way up or way down, or if their wife or their kids are driving the machine, they want to turn the boost down to half. We can do that. That's easy, and all the same parts work.
So it's like having multiple machines in one, almost.
Yes, very much so. You could make like a YXZ Yamaha, for example. You can make one of those run at 150 horsepower, and then flip the switch and make 220, 240.
Yeah. So yeah, so whatever level or experience level of the individual that's driving the machine
Yep.
can be tailored just by a literal push of a button.
Literal push of a button. Yep, and you know, you can hide it, you can lock it, you can do all kinds of stuff.